Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about who's going to be the villain in Star Wars Episode 9. Now, obviously, you're probably thinking, well, dude, that's totally going to be Kylo Ren. And, well, I think there's going to be more to it than that. So we're going to talk about all the different theories, what I think it's going to be, and I'd love to hear what you think as well. And of course, since this is very early, I'm not claiming any insider information. This is all speculation based on things we know and things we can presume, and maybe some things that we want and some things we hope. But we kind of have to put all of that aside because we have really no idea. They may throw us a complete curveball, and it may just be all about the Ewoks. So with that being said, that should be the title, shouldn't it, really? Okay. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this. I do want to remind you guys, there is still time to enter to win the Force FX lightsaber giveaway. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment. There's more details for that on Crabbok.com, but that should be coming out in about 2 weeks for the winner for that. So stay tuned, click that little button for alerts so you don't miss out as well. Okay, so Star Wars Episode 9. Obviously, we expect Kylo Ren at least will start out the villain, but there's largely been speculation that there will be another villain to complete the overall picture and allow for Kylo Ren or Ben Solo's redemption. And now, because that is something that is so likely expected, if he's going to be redeemed, who is he going to fight against? There has to be some kind of catalyst to pull him away from the dark side, and it's probably not just going to be Rey. We got hints of this in Episode 8, where he temporarily joined forces with Rey to fight a larger foe, the Praetorian Guard, or to turning against Snoke. Snoke was kind of that force to kind of push, Ben Solo back to the forefront just for a moment, but then we lost him again. So, we know that there's still some good in him, and a lot of people are definitely speculating that Ben Solo will return to the light. Now, if that's going to happen, it just makes sense that Ben and Rey would join forces and fight against some larger evil. But what could that be? Well, a lot of people have thought for a while that Snoke is going to be the antagonist, that he was somehow not really killed in Episode 8. Spoilers, that he was really just there in some type of illusory form, kind of like how Luke force projected himself, and Snoke wasn't actually there either, and he was just, testing Kylo Ren. Or perhaps that he has a clone or something like that. I don't like any of those particular suggestions, and the reason is, while that is potential, that would just be maybe a bridge too far for me, because of the fact that, well, Snoke's death was actually pretty awesome. A lot of people disagree. They thought there was a lot of build-up and then an uneventful death. I thought it was just really, really clever and awesome. I absolutely loved that, but we are totally free to disagree on that. The point is, if you're going to start bringing back every character that dies, I'm not a big fan of that. This isn't Marvel Comics. I don't want character deaths to be meaningless. We've lost Han Solo. We've lost Luke Skywalker. We lost a bunch of porgs that Chewie ate before that last one made it onto the Falcon. And yes, I do think all the rest of the porgs have already been eaten. That's why we only see one at the end of Last Jedi. But I digress. I think deaths mean something, and I think Snoke is actually dead. I don't think we'll get any more on him right now. I think they will leave the rest of the Snoke storytelling to shows like Star Wars Resistance and to books. I don't think they're going to do Snoke. Another thing they've talked about, some people have said, was what if it's Palpatine, some type of Palpatine coming back, maybe a clone of Palpatine. And I think that one would be interesting, but I don't think that is, there hasn't been enough build-up for that, and I just don't see that as being something that, like, introducing an all-new villain. And that really brings me to the point is, the main point of trying to find out who this new villain would be, assuming there is one, is for there to be a big bad in Episode 9, and for it to be meaningful, you had to have built it up all along. Snoke was, laying the groundwork to being the big bad all along, but then died in Episode 8. So if Snoke somehow came back in Episode 9, you would have the groundwork for him being built up all along. However, it'd be a kind of a cop-out for Episode 8. So Palpatine wouldn't be a cop-out for Episode 8, but it hadn't been built up all along. So do we have anything that's going to fit into all of those different aspects? And that's where I think maybe we do. So the one villain idea that I think we're likely to see in Episode 9 is actually the Knights of Ren. And the reason I say this is because they have been mentioned before. And here is basically what led me to this, is the fact that I wanted Episode 9 to answer some questions. With JJ back at the helm for Episode 9, there's a pretty good chance we're going to have some questions to some answers to a lot of the questions that episode 7 gave us. One of the biggest ones that I want addressed, at least, if not fully answered, is who are the Knights of Ren? I also want to know who were the Praetorian Guard, and I also want to know who were the Jedi that escaped with Kylo Ren from Luke's Jedi Academy, that left with him, those surviving Jedi. Now, I also want to know, what is the Venn diagram? Are any of these 3 groups the same? Are all 3 of these groups the same? Are 2 of these groups the same and 1 group is different? You know, so that is a big question, or a series of questions that I kind of want addressed. If it's something small, at least if it's addressed, I'll be happy. Like, oh yes, the Knights of Ren, they live in the caves of Olios right now, but we don't have time to visit them. At least it's been addressed. It's not like completely ignored. What I don't want is something totally ignored. And if you introduce the Knights of Ren as the new villain in episode 9, first off, it will address one of those questions, because then we'll get to see more of them. It will also have a villain that we have been exposed to before in this sequel trilogy, so it won't be an all-new villain. You just can't have, like, oh, Godzilla's the new ultimate villain, or Super Snoke, Snoke's grandfather. Something like that would just kind of be stupid, because we haven't been introduced to it. And you couldn't even go with somebody like Thrawn or even Sloane, even though, you know, there's always that possibility they could be involved. Well, Sloane was definitely involved in the First Order. We just don't know, you know, because these characters haven't been in the movies, and you can't introduce a character in episode 9 that people have had to have read the books to even know who they are, because that's really unfortunate. You know, as your big bad. If you're going to do that for a supporting character, that's fine. You could have maybe, you know, Rey Sloane in episode 9. You just don't want her to be like the main character, because, you know, this is the conclusion of this final trilogy, the trilogy of trilogies, and you're introducing a brand new character to be the main antagonist of the whole thing. No, it has to be somebody we've been mentioned already. And if it is a group of enemies, then that's going to be a different dynamic. Or we had a little bit of that in episode 8, but we haven't had that as the main bad. So here is my theory. Assume the Knights of Ren were these Jedi that left with Kylo Ren. They were not as strong as him, but they were trained by Luke Skywalker, so they're definitely going to be formidable. So we already established, you know, we have some idea of their power level based on the fact that they were trained by Luke Skywalker. They were also, in theory, trained with the dark side a little bit more, maybe by Snoke, but at least by Kylo Ren, right? That he was like a mentor to them also. So they know that they've got some light side from Luke, some dark side from Kylo Ren. Maybe they're off doing their own thing now. Maybe they're not even dark side. Maybe they're kind of gray, you know, but more on the evil side. Now, we also know that they're probably not going to be as powerful as Kylo Ren, at least one-on-one, but that there are several of them. Suddenly, Kylo Ren would not be able to defeat them. We could also presume that if they're not the Praetorian Guard, hopefully, because the Praetorian Guard are dead, maybe they're the ones responsible for training the Praetorian Guard. Because if they were Jedi Knights and are now dark side or dark Jedi, because we're not really doing Sith anymore, if they are Jedi Knights, how come the Praetorian Guard didn't have lightsabers? That would make sense if they were trained by the Knights of Ren and thus had just, you know, different types of weapons. And even the Praetorian Guard represented a challenge for Kylo Ren and Rey combined. It wasn't easy. There were some cuts and stuff. So, I mean, and by the way, one of the best scenes ever. I absolutely love that entire scene. That's one of the reasons I like Last Jedi so much. They had a lot of really good moments like that. But we'll talk more about Last Jedi in another video. It's just, I think I could talk all day about that movie. There's so much to talk about, both good and bad. But, so if the Knights of Ren had trained the Praetorian Guard, that also ties them in to episode 8. And if they would have to clearly establish that they were trained by them. Because now all of a sudden, we have them introduced in episode 7. We have the Knights of Ren's students providing a challenge to our heroes in episode 8, or Rey and presumably Ben Solo in episode 8. And then we could actually see them in episode 9. So that would actually fit the bill of a villain that had, you know, that was at least mentioned or referenced in all 3 movies, and now you're paying it off. So that is something that I would like. But it also, it's a different dynamic than just this one duel of one dude versus another dude. You know, there could be maybe one of the Knights of Ren that is the most powerful, and you could still have a single a new leader of the Knights of Ren, because let's say Kylo Ren isn't doing that anymore. Maybe they changed their name. You know, maybe they're just the Knights, you know, or the Dark Knights. Well, that's too Batman-esque. But ideally, I wanted to answer that question, and I want it to be a villain that's been painted through all of the different movies, and I just don't really see any other options if they're going to have Ben Solo come back to the light. In theory, they could have some kind of Force Ghost, you know, maybe the dark side Force Ghost too. But seeing that we haven't ever done that before, I just don't see that being the case. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to enter that giveaway. There is still a couple of weeks. Click that bell for alerts. You can check out Crabbok.com, and you can hop in my Discord and talk about it there, or let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and thank my patrons on Patreon as well. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.